Everyone, thanks for joining today's live webinar. My name is Goran, and I'm the co-founder of Codemap, world's first and largest freelance platform for no-code, low-code talent. And with me here is Jesse, the co-founder of Triggre, which is the best no-code platform for building business-critical applications. So with all the recent advancements in AI, there's no denying that it's an increasingly powerful and versatile tool that's definitely here to stay. And so companies of all sizes have used AI to a certain extent for some time now, but now as its capabilities and accessibility and popularity in general grow, many are wondering how exactly to implement AI for their own small business. So there are many functions across small businesses in which AI tools can make a big difference, with sales, marketing, and customer support being one of the most frequently mentioned ones. And so today, Jesse will walk us through a hands-on example of how to implement AI, namely ChatGPT 3, to automatically assess the urgency and sentiment of our incoming emails and assign them appropriate tags in order to categorize them. So this is, I think, something that can definitely save you and your employees a lot of time, and it can be used across all of the aforementioned business functions, as you will see. So basically, that's it. Also, make sure to stick around until the end of the webinar because you will be able to download this tool and try it out for yourself. So that's it. Jesse, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the intro, Goran. As Goran said, my name is Jesse. I'm one of the founders of Triggre, which is a platform that allows you to build business applications indeed without any code. And that means without any code. And Goran and I were discussing the content for this live stream, and we were debating a little bit about AI, and we're saying how do we actually use it in our company? And I gave an example of what we do. So it's really that sort of really got the idea started for this webinar. But maybe it's fun if you think about it. If you're listening and or watching right now, think for yourself, like, what would do you already have an idea of where you would use AI, maybe OpenAI's GPT or Google's Bard or other systems right now? Maybe you already use something, but do you have an idea where you can use it right now in your business already? And I ask you to think about this. If you can leave it in a comment or something, we'll see it pop up here, and I'll put it on screen if you leave it. But mostly, I want you to think about it because I hope that during this webinar you will get more ideas, and I'll ask the same question at the end and see for yourself if you have some new ideas, because that's the ultimate goal for today. And with that being said, I think that it's kind of interesting to first think about how we use AI. I don't know, like, Gordon, how do you see, like, if you would say, like, what would AI bring? Like, how would you describe that for yourself if you think about that? Like, because it's such a broad thing, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we have a good example, testing code, of course.
Testing code.
Writing blogs. Yeah.
Writing blogs. Here we go.
Well, for example, in Codemap, I think definitely we get like dozens of emails, like applications daily, and it's definitely something that we will be using probably AI for. Maybe even this concrete example that you will show us, like the email sentiment analysis. I think that's really used for like a lot of our functions. So that's something in practice that we're looking forward to. But for now, we haven't used it much. And I think from some of the jobs that we see on our platform, I think people are slowly starting to use it and implement it in their no-code solutions. But it's mostly like just the front. So you can just communicate in like via ChatGPT and not like click on stuff, or just like to generate blog posts and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to see how it plays out in the long run in practice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's really interesting, and we have some really cool things like.
Oh,
So to reiterate, the testing code, writing blogs, smart work, understanding KPIs without using dashboards. I especially like that one, and we'll get back to that one. Actually, I'll sort of get an idea for that for people. So I'll get back. I'm not sure if I pin it that I can keep it. I think here. So I'll come back to that one. Proposal writing and app testing, also really cool, and a chat bot, which is I would say one of the more frequently heard. So you see, it's like what I see is a lot of things are based around writing stuff, and that makes sense because obviously we've seen Chat GPT, which arguably can write things. And here's marketing and training. Exactly, is also a really good one. So what you see is that we're sort of trying to think of ways to generate text, right? In many ways, which is very interesting. But I think that we don't have to really go into examples today of that, because I think that if we look at what people have said, this is what we can already see. Although testing code obviously is different and understanding KPIs is also different. Writing stuff is something that is very clearly the use case. But the way I see it is that where platforms like ours are more of the hard skill, right? So let's say it's more of the, if we compare it to human hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills in terms of logic, reasoning, that sort of thing is what our platform does. And what I think is the real opportunity that you have is that you can actually add soft skills to these tools that you have. And this is maybe a different way of thinking about it than you do now. This is also and Chris says any kind of content generation, such email, proposals, blog posts, so many avenues and options. Yes, I agree. These are all really cool things. However, they don't really, like they don't automate processes. And I am from a background where we are working a lot with automation and trying to make things easier and sort of streamlined in terms of how you work with it. So probably think about processes that take away human effort like completely from the process. And like I said, I see AI as soft skills, specifically the large language models that have been recently sort of introduced, obviously for writing stuff. So yes, we can write content, we can do email writing and everything. But I think that the more interesting thing is actually that it can also read stuff. And I'll give you a very specific example that we used ourselves. We send out emails to people. For example, it's a marketing email, maybe, and someone will say, stop bugging me. Or someone will say, like, hey, this is interesting. When can I plan a call? And the problem with this is that usually the stop bugging me type emails are way more than the, hey, please plan me a call. This sounds interesting, even if you do your targeting right. I'm not sure if you've ever noticed that, but most people, I think I see go and I go like, yeah, that's pretty much what we have as well. I think anyone in sales, right? That's how it is.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not sure what your ratios are, but that's how it is, I guess. So then someone would reply, and we'd have to read those emails, right? One by one, we'd have to go through them, and we'd have someone go there and go like, oh, this one is interesting. We need to reply to this one, and the other one is not. The interesting thing, I think, with AI is this is what I would call a soft skill, is that you can actually use AI to do this for you. So when you have a heap of content coming in, for example, things like summarizing things is an interesting one to use for these type of things where a lot of data comes in and you want to summarize, or you can actually categorize it. For example, and this is what I want to show you today. When an email comes in, that you categorize it, for example, on high priority, normal priority, or no action required. Sort of like, hey, do I need to respond quickly, not that quickly, or don't need to look at it at all. And you can also add the sentiment. So for example, is someone happy or satisfied or angry? And these things you can obviously use to sort of create an order of which you want to handle the requests, for example, that come in, where I would assume, and I will in my example, that the angry people with a high priority will be needed to be dealt with first, as opposed to the happy people who have no action required. But this kind of soft skill is something that you can then automate, because if you have these things coming in, then you can even, indeed, again, with, for example, GPT, you can then use a automatic reply with a Zoom link or something else, a schedule link, account link, whatever you want to use, and send that only to those people who have had a positive reply. So now suddenly what you can do is you can make this business process completely automated until a human is actually needed. And this will greatly increase your productivity, your effectiveness in this process without hurting anyone. I think that's important, like without hurting anyone who sort of emails you or like generating content and maybe the content's not correct, or, as we've also heard a lot about, I'm sure that you've heard this too, hallucinations in the text where it doesn't make sense and everything. So when you use AI as a soft skill in your hard skill process, I think that you can get actually a lot of value from that, which is something that I'm not sure everyone has already thought about. I'm not sure. Have you ever had any processes like this before, Goran, other than what I've shown you, by the way?
No, actually,
It's not
we
about
haven't,
cheat.
which is really interesting because it's actually kind of using it in a reverse way. So it can process and it has all of these language skills, but then you use them not to create content, but to read and go through heaps of your emails, so you don't have to be that tired at the end of the day just from like getting out the sentiment from the email. It does it for you. So I think it's a really interesting thing, and I think everyone can relate to it. I cannot imagine a business who doesn't face this issue, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Because quickly, I put this up on the screen because apparently on LinkedIn, Steve is experiencing some trouble. We also have this on other channels. Should that maybe work better for you? But indeed, I think that's the thing. And I have not used ChatGPT like enormously, mostly because spending a lot of time on prompting or whatnot. Like, yes, you can get really good at prompting, but I feel that using it really in a business process where you actually increase productivity is one of those things that I would use it for mostly. And that's what we're going to do today. So I will show you, as I said, a process built in Triggre. I'll go through it, where you can actually, we will prioritize email based on how fast reaction is sort of required, and the sentiment of what people will say. And you get to send in your own email. Right in here, and we will obviously automatically, everything is filtered out that would be sort of like personally identifiable information, so you can safely send it when we put it on the screen.
there's also a good comment, I think, an interesting one. You might want to pull it up. Yeah.
Do you make a manual double check of the categorizations, or do you fully trust on the automation rules? That's a really good call. Now, in this one right here, I don't. And what we do ourselves is actually, for now, we actually trust it. But that has more to do with the numbers. I figure if you do, let's say you send out over time 1,000 emails and you have a 10% rate of people saying like, hey, this is interesting. So you have 100 people that are interesting, and maybe like one or two of them, or maybe three or something, would be negative or false positives, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the question is, does it weigh up against spending time on figuring that out versus just saying like, you know what, we missed a couple, or someone was positive instead of negative, or the other way around. So I would actually go for that. What we do is we know our percentage of positive and negative replies, or neutral, or like we know those rates. If it would deviate a lot from that, then yes, we would dive in, obviously. But in general, I would say I would trust it. I would try it out manually for a couple first, obviously with test set, like for like 50 to 100, just to make sure that we sort of are on the same line, and maybe tweak it a little bit if it's too much off. So I hope that answers your question. It's a really interesting question. Yeah, I would say it's a business case issue, as so many things are. So I'm gonna show you first the application, and Marta is in the background. You guys don't see her, but if you can put the email address up in the chat thing, then I'll put it on screen, because we're gonna first show you the application that you can actually email something into, and we'll show you how the request then gets sort of handled. Yeah, here we go. So this is it. Yeah, it's a Zapier email address, so it's a little bit of a tricky one, but it's Triggre with re.b47yxe@zapiermail.com. Feel free to send email to it. Please, no obscenities or anything like that. That would be much appreciated. But if you would send this, then yes, this email address will be perfect. So I will share my screen and I'll show you what it is. Let me see. Here we go. Share. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna keep this up on screen for now. Maybe Goran, you can send me something to start off with. But the idea here is that when Goran sends a message to this email address, now I've used the Zapier one because it's quick to set up. Then Zapier actually calls what is a background process in Triggre, just to get the email in, and then it will appear here. Oh, we have two things already. So what I've done is, based on the priority and the sentiment that we get from OpenAI, I'll either put it on open requests or completed requests. So as you can see here, great product. Hi, thanks, Marta. Marta says, just dropping a note. And then GPT says, well, if she's just dropping a note, there's no action required. The sentiment is other. So if it doesn't see that she's overly impressed or happy or angry or anything, it will put other. And for the open requests, here we have the status of an order. Dear team, I would like to inquire about the status of my order number 1234. The tracking details are a bit confusing. Can you kindly help me on this matter? Now you can see that this is a high priority because it requests us to respond, basically. Apparently it cannot determine sentiment in the list of sentiments that we've defined. But here we have this one. Have someone set this up in my system? I have a turnaround time of 2 weeks, which again gets a sentiment. Whether it's correct or not, that's up to you. Obviously, we can tweak things, and I'll show you how it works. But this is how you can use this. So, if a request comes in with a different priority, or it's completed, you can actually see. It flags a lot of things as this, but you can basically filter your results based on what you want to have. So here you can see the whole list of things that have now come in. So I'll quickly go through so you can see that they actually have come in. So please stop with the dad jokes going on. Yeah, I know.
Did it classify it well?
Well, yeah, I think there is no action required on this one for sure.
Definitely.
So you can see that these things, you would maybe want to go through them, right? But maybe you want to go through them at the end of the week. This one should have actually, I would say, be differently scheduled. So these are things that you definitely have to check, as we discussed before. But I'll show you how I did this now, and this is basically super simple demo. So you can see this is how it works. At the end of the webinar, we'll send you this as well, and you can tweak it to your own liking. I use the super simple prompt, as you'll see in a moment. So anyway, you get these really easy to use. I think someone's disappointed here. So this is sort of the idea. Now, how do you build something like this, right? So how do you use this in a process? Because I can mark these as completed. Like let's say that these questions or something, we can say like done. Then they're moved into the other completed requests list, as you can see. So basically, what we'll do is I'll first show you Triggre. For those who've never seen it, this is our designer. So this is where you build that application. And in Triggre, you have design, publish, and versions. Basically, we'll start with design here. Obviously, I've already published my application. But with design, applications that you build consist of appearance, which is like the menu structure. User flows are a combination of user interface and workflow. So basically think of it like screens and processes in a visual way. Automation flows are background processes that run. Flow parts are repeatable blocks of processes that you can build yourself and also get some built in that you can use in the other ones in automation flows and in user flows. And data is obviously how you store the information that you have in your application. So we're going to start here. What you've seen is basically I've made this thing a request. The assigned to we haven't used, but it has a body, which is the body of the email. It has a priority, as you could see, high priority, normal priority, and no action required. And a sentiment, which is angry, disappointed, happy, satisfied, or other. So that's basically the whole structure I have in a subject. That's what you get. Other than that, I have some other things like a setting table that's handy for you because when you use it later on, you can use your own email address, your own, for error emails, your Open API key, and which Open AI model you want to use. So that's something that you can set up yourself. If we then look at how we've built this in terms of the menu, as you might have recognized, we have this open requests, completed requests, where you show those requests, and then we have all and settings. But let's look at these. And in Triggre, what you have is this menu structure basically consists of user flows. So if we take a look at, for example, the all requests user flow, which you can see in the menu. So if you see this, it's basically a visual representation of what you can do, right? So you start here, then you go to this overview page where you can click a button, for example, add, which brings you to the add request, where you can cancel and go back, or you can say done. Then this process is run, which creates the request, stores it basically, and then you return to the overview. So this is a super simple one. You can make decisions in here. You can make it very complex. But this is a visual representation of your workflow. And then for this, since we only have these overviews that we work with based on categorization, we have completed requests and open requests, for example. This is very simple. We just have a request overview with only the open ones on here. It's just a list of open requests, and when you click them, it shows the data here. As you've seen, the application, open requests, right? I click it, shows on the right side. So this is how we design it. And then obviously most of the work gets done behind the scenes as you want it for any good application, I would say. And that is done in the automation flows here. So what we'll see is this new request. This is what Zapier calls. And basically the only thing that Zapier does is it takes your subject and your body and it sends it to this request as inputs. So this is a process which you have a body and a subject. And we have a PDF with a download that you can get at the end where you can actually just read how we've done that. So basically what we do when it comes in, we create a request. Basically what that means is we create that in the data and we store the body text and we store the subject, right? Because these are just the two things that we use. I load some settings. These are notably your API key, your email address, and your model that you want to use. And then I say, I get a prompt for the priority. And we'll take a look at these processes in detail in a moment. Then we do an OpenAI categorization, which we'll also look in detail. And out of this comes either high priority, normal priority, or no action required. And in this case, what I've done is just link that to any other value. So if anything else comes out, it's this one. I then update the request with this priority. Then I do the same thing for the sentiment. So I get the prompt for the sentiment, send that to my categorization. I get a sentiment back, which can be angry, disappointed, anything else like other or whatever, happy or satisfied, as you've seen. I update it and then we're done. This is how sort of the categorization works in the background. So what you see here is that you can also do this in a different way. I just wanted to make it very visual that you can see that there's a different choice that is made based on these sentiments. Now, obviously, you could even say, like, look, the angry emails have to all go to Goran because I don't want to deal with them. I'll take the happy ones and assign them to Goran, for example, automatically. Like, that's what a real world application would do. But for now, I've kept it demo worthy. So this is basically how this works. I hope that this is clear so far. So if you then take a look into the more depth of that process, which is called flow parts, these are the reusable processes. Here we go. So we have that OpenAI categorization that we do. So first look at this. This has a few more inputs. So what we want here is we want to have your API key, obviously. We want to have an error email address just to send if OpenAI returns a 401 error or something like that. We'll just send an email with that. Which model to use and which prompts to use. And with that, what we do here is Triggre can call any web API. So we'll actually call the api.openai.com v1 completions API, which is a post request. It's a bearer token authorization. This is all in the OpenAI documentation usually, so you can just read that there. And I have a property here as an input that I send, as you can see, the API key I send as API key authorization. This is how this works for OpenAI. And then we send data as JSON. This is just how it works. So we configure that, and then you see I want only one answer. I want to use the model that we've have as an input, or if it's not supplied, I use text DaVinci 003. Temperature, I've put to 0.2. This is one of those tweaking things for the AI. So the lower it is, the more certain it is, like the less deviation it does. So this is one of those things that you can play around with a little bit to see what works best for you. And then the prompt, obviously, which is as an input. So we'll take a look at exact prompts that I've used in a moment. And you send this to OpenAI as a process, and then you get back, skip a few steps, JSON data, which is, you get a lot more back, but the only thing that we're interested in is actually the text of the choices, right? So in this case, it will always be one choice, but it will, this is the structure that it sends us back, and that's basically this action. Now, it can be that OpenAI says something's wrong, so in that case, we sent you that error email. But if it's right, basically what we do is we store the data temporarily, and we put that out here as data, and that is that categorization. So that depends on actually the prompts that you say. Whatever text comes out of there, that's what we get here. And if we look at that prompt, then what I've done is, arguably, there's people here that are going to go like, "Oh my God, this is the worst prompt ever." I probably agree. It's a super simple one. So the only thing that I've done is I've said, like, look, we have that request, right? And I use that request in the prompt. And it says, the text below is a request by a customer. Please give the request a priority based on whether the customer expects an answer. Limit yourself to the following answers: high priority, normal priority, no action required. Now, obviously, what you maybe have seen is that it never says normal priority. And that is very likely due to what I've put here. And this is one of those things that you want to play around with. I say based on whether the customer expects an answer. Now you can make this more specific and say when the customer expects an answer. If it is within 3 days, it should be high priority.
Mm-hmm.
If it's within a week and 2 weeks, it should be normal priority. And if if they expect it later than that, if they expect nothing, so you can really get down to this. As I said, this is a very short prompt, and you can just edit this. So you can just, if you go here, you can just edit this part of the prompt. It's just a text here that you can play around with. And you can obviously also just play around with this first in OpenAI's website to check like what you sort of feel is correct, and then paste it in here. But this is the sort of the simple way that I set this up.
Sorry, did you have issues within Triggre when you with the prompts itself? I mean, did you have to optimize them, or did you just get them right from the get go?
Well, let's say I got them right from the get go. Yeah, I would say that there's an issue that I noticed the issue that it never says that it's a normal priority, but I thought it was a good example to show that this is exactly how it works. Like I have given it an assignment where it just has like no action required or high priority, which is fine. But you want to probably make it also go into the middle. Now, if you get the design from me and the prompt is in there, you can tweak it so that it actually will give you normal priorities for yourself, which I think is actually a fun thing to do. So the same thing is done with the sentiment prompt, which is slightly different. I'll show this one as well. So you can see this is it's just a text that it creates and sends as output. But these prompts are indeed very important ultimately. So here I did a similar thing. The text below is a request by a customer. Please give the request a sentiment based on what the customer's sentiment is. Limit yourself to the following answer. So again, I do that same sort of structure where I make sure that it limits itself to the answers that I want, because that's sort of that soft skill, right? So we want it to take anything and sort of categorize it in a limited set of possibilities. And then based on those possibilities, we can actually take different routes in our business process, left, right, center. Maybe we need to escalate it. You can do so many things. And this is where I wanted to come back to that question. Understand KPIs without using dashboards is a really interesting one. Because you could say that you can ask an AI to give you indeed a KPI score. So you don't have to use a dashboard per se, but you could say like, give me a score that based on some text or something. So you don't have to actually make it sort of do all the hard work yourself to get it into structured data. You can actually AI to put it into structured data, and then do a second step where you just only show the ones that are actionable for you in that sense, right? And that would limit a lot of the work that you'd normally do on understanding KPIs. I also think that specifically this example, so I'll put it on screen again. So I think that Suni has a really good idea here, is like you would be able to probably experiment much faster with different KPIs, because you can just dump it in there and go like, okay, here's some information on it. And then if it works, you can just use that prompt that you've created and build it into a process. And now you have a process that takes in sort of unstructured data and then categorizes it and makes it into actionable data for you, where you can actually automate your processes based on it. So I think that that's a really cool example that you had there, Suni. I think it's a really cool case that you have, and I think that definitely people can use it for that.
I think I also saw that example specifically with Tesla's yearly reports. Someone basically you let GPT run loose on all the 1,000 pages or whatever it has, and then you can get some amazing insights from it.
Exactly.
Way. And I think we skipped one of the comments, which is in general. It's more high level, and it's more related to you from Chris Williams. I don't know if you see it. So it's
I see it. Yeah,
more using more using ChatGPT in this sense, or AI in general in this sense, and not like in just creating, I don't know, blog posts or just spamming for SEO content. This is really something that feels that's helping, like helping us, and in that sense, it helps with the image of AI, because it's really something that helps us and not replaces us, which is the big fear that everyone has.
Yeah, exactly. I
So
think that's a really good point indeed that Chris makes. It's a very important thing that, like, it's not the kind of work that you want to do like all day long,
right.
go
Yeah.
like categorizing emails. And I would, if you get
You
your
would
prompt
probably
right,
lose real work if you just do that.
yeah,
Like you would miss
exactly.
the
Yeah,
opportunities in your inbox because
yeah. And I think that you'd actually, I mean, if you asked me to do that, I think that after 5 minutes, I would probably throw myself out the window or something, because I would go
So it's
bonkers at
saving
this.
jobs and lives. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really something that I wouldn't want to do all the time. And also because it's something that it does require cognitive effort to categorize these things for humans. And then if you get tired after a while, I think that you'll start making mistakes faster. So that's something that also, I think, even if the AI also makes mistakes, at least it doesn't cost as much effort. And I think that actually it's 1,000 times cheaper. If you look at how much it costs to do this versus having a human bored out of his mind to do the same thing, it is both cheaper, and I think that you'll get a better result because you can actually do more, indeed, without actually taking away something that someone would do. Where arguably writing a really good post is something that I think, well, one, I think that AI is actually not that good at it right now, but even if it is very good at it, it's something that, yeah, until recently at least, we thought is a very human thing to do. So this is really how you can do that. So we now have those building blocks that you can use, but you can also build other ones, right? If you have, for example, your email, right? If you've read anything on time management, everyone knows. If you've read anything, you probably know is it important or is it not important? Is it urgent? Is it not urgent? This is a really simple classification that you could also do for this thing, right? So I took a slightly different take on it, but that's basically the thing. You can just have it go, is it urgent? Is it not urgent? Is it important? Is it not important? And then build your list based on those two values, give it a score 4, 3, 2, 1, and even automate the follow-up on the action. And this is not just email that you can do this with, obviously. You can have it read documents. You can have your AI summarize that and then take that summary and have that summary then sort of taken as, do I need to do anything with it? From my point of view, you can go very complex procedures in this sense that would normally take you a lot of time, and probably you would not be able to actually do them all the time. However, I think that the key to using this type of soft skill is that you take something that's broad, like email, like let's say unstructured data, and you make that very narrow. This gives that AI very few chances to hallucinate. If you ask it to go the other way from something narrow into something wide, it's like you know how I'm going to ask Gordon on something. You've probably watched like Miami Vice, NCIS, whatever city it is in, right? These things, right?
Yeah.
You know, and like any movie, and they have this shot, right? They go like, oh, it's a crime scene, and hands, and it's like, poof, suddenly the pixelated image becomes super crisp, and hands more. Oh, I see that the killer, who is 3 kilometers away, has blue eyes. Interesting. It's like, that is the type of thing that we're asking it to do, and it's going to come up with BS because it has to fill in the pixels, and that's just impossible. Super cool to do in a movie with an image and filling it in. But it will always be an approximation because you go from something narrow into something wide. Now, you can do it nicely, but it means that it does not necessarily represent the truth. It will be a coherent image, sure, but whether that killer has blue eyes or not, that remains to be seen, because maybe it didn't, and it thought that, in this case, the most probable option is a blue eye, so I'll just draw a blue eye. So this is a thing that you have to really think about when you use these type of AIs right now, is like, do I expand on something or do I actually contract into something? And when you contract into something, I think that the understanding that it has and the probability of these type of categorizations are extremely powerful to use. So that's what I definitely think. I hope that this gives you a lot more ideas on how to use this in business processes that you have, where you would categorize things or maybe score things. Like there's a lot of these things where you can use that, obviously, and then based on whatever score comes out or other value comes out, then you can decide, okay, which ones do I let a human take a look at? So that's sort of the idea that I wanted to give you in this. So I hope that it's clear for everyone, and feel free to ask more questions. Goran, do you have any questions for now about what I just explained and showed?
Well, not really. I think this is really well put, and you really explained it well. That we want to narrow down the options. We want to categorize it and not like let it run loose and fill in the blanks, because then, you just cannot trust it. But this is really, I think, the way to go. And then this is like a base for then thinking of which problems can you solve in this way, and then it's probably going to be really well to use ChatGPT for, right?
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
just as sort of a frame to give you is like, you have some form of unstructured text data, and you want to categorize it. If you have that problem, that is specifically something, and then based on that categorization, you want to take different actions, right? Because that's a powerful thing that you can do. Like maybe you can minimize the number of manual actions to a third. That is fantastic in business processes. Obviously, it's a huge business case right there, especially if they're boring. So if you take those type of processes, then I think that this is really what it opens up. This new potential to take those type of processes and automate them. Combine that soft skill of categorization that we as humans are really good at, but now you can do with AI, with the hard skill of a process where you know what happens. If it's an angry email with a high priority, you know what happens. You know it gets expedited to Goran, who's super good at dealing with these type of customers, or it gets flagged for something. Another thing that you can do, which just comes up now in my mind, is like, sometimes I think that you get the worst emails when you're on a help desk. So what you can also ask is to provide a neutral version or a sort of more factful version of the content of the email, so that you get rid of all the swear words, all of the things, and this might make it easier for people to reply in a nice way to someone if you don't read a very angry email, but you read the, let's say, sanitized version of it.
Exactly. If you're forwarding me all the angry emails, by the end of the day, my responses are not going to be that nice. But if we clean them up, exactly.
Right? Yeah. So this is Rudy has a really good question. How is the security? Does the email go into the cloud? Yes. So with OpenAI, this is a thing that indeed you have to remember that you are sending it to them. So you do send it to an AI. So you are using their service, right? So whatever service conditions they have apply. Which means that maybe you don't want to use it for everything. Like to give you an example, we have a policy of not using AI for our source code because we have to open up the source code to Microsoft's GitHub, for example, and we don't do that. So it depends on the on which one it is that you have to do. So that's a decision that you have to make and be aware of. It's a good point that you make there. Chris asks, this could be expanded to look at record sets, so it could offer another way of summarizing records, specifically those with lots of text in them. Indeed. that is also one of those narrowing down things. Indeed,
Narrowing
like
down,
you can get a bullet list or something like that, summarize it quickly, and then that will actually help people also indeed to very quickly take action if they have to take action. So that might be a nice one to stack on top of that. Indeed. Yeah, that's a really good call. To further sort of minimize the human labor or effort that goes into handling the situation. That is a very good one. Indeed. So to come back to the security, because I feel that is a very important one. It depends, I would say, on whether you have yourself data coming in that is sensitive. In many things such as customer requests or something, like for example, we run a community forum. So people post something there, then they know that it's people can read it. If you send a support desk an email, you also know that that's like there's not going to be very sensitive information in the first email for sure. Then follow-up emails, maybe you don't want to classify or categorize them, right? So this is something where you can make a decision where you say, like, look, the first one we'll categorize, the second ones, third ones and stuff, I won't. That is a way to indeed deal with processes like that. So to sort of steer around the sending of sensitive information. Yeah.
Do you also categorize the replies to your own sent out emails, or is this just for incoming mail?
For now, I've built it for incoming only in the example, but yes, you can definitely do that. I think you can definitely do that. What is also an interesting one, for example, to tie it together a little bit with the KPIs, is you can also sort of see like what would be if you categorize all of the steps in the whole email cadence. Is you can see, for example, how many people do you get from angry to satisfied, or from angry to happy, or from like you can sort of track sort of the changing sentiment, and that might be a really good KPI to sort of take that idea as a service desk KPI, right? Because it doesn't matter if you do 1 or 3 emails. What matters is you get a high percentage of people that are satisfied, even if they may start out angry or unsatisfied. The faster you can get them there, the better of a service agent I think that you are. Like,
yeah. That's
let's see. Will this live demo be available after via recording? Yes, the stream will be available, and we have a URL where you can give us your email, which will get you a link to download the template that you can use in Triggre, and a PDF that goes through the steps to quickly set it up so you can have this demo running with your own Zap. You can use a free Zapier account for this, free OpenAI account, free Triggre account, so it doesn't cost you anything. To play around with it a little bit and see if this is something that you can use. So we'll share that as well, and the live demo will be available on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, I think.
Yes.
If there's anyone who has another question, and then I'll happily answer that. Otherwise, I think that we can put the link in where people can download the demo, so that they can take a look for themselves. I have to ask Marta because I don't have it here, so she's gonna quickly type it. Here we go. Yep. So it's trig.re/get-ai-template. There you go. It should also be in the chat and on the channels and everything. So I hope everyone that you enjoyed it. I hope that you have some new ideas. So here's the question for you that you might want to answer. You can answer it in chat. You can answer it for yourself. I hope that you have some new ideas versus what you started out with. That has been the goal for Goran and me, to make sure that you sort of get inspired, get new ideas on how to use AI in different business processes than you may have thought of. So if that's the case, please let me know. I would love to know if it did, or even if it didn't. I would like to know. I think that's roughly it. This is what I have, at least. Goran, anything that you have?
No, I think this is basically it. and I think you summarize it pretty well, and you yourself narrow it down, like like we should aim the tasks for AI to be sort of, yeah, having a having a broad set of data and just narrowing it down to and categorizing it for our actions. I think that's the way to go, definitely.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, well, like I said, if people use this frame, that they can definitely. Chris says that he definitely has new ideas, and thanks as well. You are welcome. That's really cool to hear. That's it. We've kept it nice within the hour, as promised. Well, I'm not sure if we promised, but we did it anyway. So that's good. Thanks for the time, Goran, and I hope that you also will be using this in all of the processes that you have.
Definitely, we'll be trying it out.
Okay, cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.